Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Wisdom Wednesday, also the mini series that we are creating from Grateful After Goodbye. Today is episode 2 of 3. We have covered the details, how it started, my journey, a little bit in the first episode, and then this is the second one, and there will be a third one. I won't get into too much details at the beginning because folks who have been coming here, you guys know already. For folks who are new, I would encourage you to see the first one. A very quick recap. November 2023, I lost my 21 years of corporate job suddenly, and then in the same month, later in the month, I lost my marriage. So from there, I rebuilt my life. It took close to a year, but after that, I was, in God's grace, I am able to help other people through different ecosystem that I have now, through YouTube and meetup events, and also through books. So anyway, now getting into this. So the first episode, we talked a lot about how to steady the ground after everything falls apart. For me, it was mindfulness and gratitude. For you, it could be something different. But for a few months, you just do something small that gives you the sense of control. So in my case, it was practicing mindfulness and writing the gratitude cards, on my wall. So anyway, so today we are going to be discussing chapter 6, 7, and 8. Chapter 6 is about before you let go. Chapter 7, you versus you, the inner battle. And chapter 8, YouTube, filming my way back to life. And I'll tell you how those worked for me. Again, exactly same thing may or may not work for you, but as you see this might help or spark something in you that may help for you in your journey. So before you let go, so for me, one of the reasons I think that the light is so bright after the divorce is because, at least the way I feel, that I have given everything to, so we tried to reconcile. When it was time to reconcile, I tried to give everything under the sun to make it work. Now, was it perfect? Probably not, but it was my best effort. And that is something I encourage anybody I talk to. There are people sometimes who talk to me about who are in a struggling marriage, and I tell them, before you let go, this is a very key step. This is a very key step, because if you don't give your all, you will always have that what if. Reason being, in the future, we never know the future, right? In the future, you may have a great relationship or you may not have a great relationship, whatever that may be. And then you will have this what if reasoning. What if I tried harder in my prior relationship, right? So in my case, I know, and I can confidently say that I have tried everything under the sun. So now, do I blame my partner? No, because as the marriage fell apart, we both had our lack of better term, faults, or whatever you want to call it as, right? Like, because marriage works with two people. At the same time, when marriage breaks, there are two people, they do something which eventually, they grow apart and things like that, and then it doesn't work. So, but by the time I gave all my effort, he was already done, right? And marriage is painful because two people don't get done at the same time, and sometimes we just have to let go, knowing that either you call it destiny, either you call it God writing your path, or whatever resonates with you, because we as human being, other than the family we are born into, we are supposed to walk this path with certain people only for certain time. Now, there are people who are married for 50 years, 60 years until they die, and maybe that's how their path was destined. Now, if you're married for, in our case, we were 2 years dated and 12 years of marriage before we got into, completely going our own way. And even the paperwork took time. So anyway, 15 years of togetherness, if you count all of that. But anyway, and we co-parent now. So the point is that there is a certain time that we are supposed to walk the path together. And after that, when somebody's role in your story has ended, and then no matter what you do, it's going to end. No matter what you do, it's going to end. And sometimes that's what it takes, some time to get used to of the fact that, so, and again it comes back to, so this chapter, right, chapter 7, you versus you, the inner battle. You will see that if you end up reading this book, I talk about the fight is not outside, my friends. The fight is not with your ex. The fight is not with the world. The fight is not with your friends. The fight is always inside, because in my framework, I talk about inner coach and the inner critic, because there are always two voices that we have inside. The inner critic is saying that you are not good enough, right? Because somebody did not want you enough, and that's why you got divorced, and then that type of feeling. And the inner coach is, no, you are good. It's not about you, why it did not work. There are other things or whatever. Because what would you tell your best friend? And that is your inner coach, right? So that fight, when you have the me versus me, in my case, and for you it's you versus you, and that battle would continue. In my case, I would say, some people tell me, like, how did I get over all of this so quickly, right? Less than a year, like about 8 or 9 months. So I say that because life has been preparing me, which I also didn't know, for a very long time, over a decade, because not through marriage, because this was my first marriage. I lost jobs several times, and sometimes it would be like, some contracting job, it was going great. All of a sudden, the project got scrapped. Even though I even worked for Circuit City, like on the tech side, and all of a sudden, Circuit City went belly up. I'm like, really, God? So things like that. I mean, back then it was not a laughing matter. Now I'm laughing with Circuit City experience, but I had things like that, that out of nowhere, things would just end, right? And I'm like, my friends are getting these jobs that, because initially I was on visa, now I'm a citizen, US citizen, but anyway. So when you are on visa, and back then in 2008, when there was market crash, a recession, and God knows now what's going on in the market. But anyway, it was difficult, right? So a lot of time I had to do a contracting job in the tech field, and it was challenging. But then, now looking back, I know that all of those were preparing me for the person I am today. That when the resiliency that gets built into us. And of course, my mom, who, that's a whole different story, I won't get into the details. My mom, she was 42 when my dad passed away. We were 6 kids, I was the youngest. And of course, a lot of resilience came from her, but I think it was an everyday, day-to-day experience, came from my when I lost my jobs, that was preparing me. So it took me a while to get over that you versus you, or me versus me in my case, to realize that, okay, it is not just, what if I did this? What if I did that? Because I gave everything under the sun I could. The last book I bought from Amazon it's called How to Save Your Marriage Alone. It's a very tiny book, like maybe this thick and like this much. You can see that book. I bought that, and what I realized is, you cannot save your marriage alone. I don't know why he wrote that book, but anyway, the point is that in some sense, I mean, there's my interpretation is that in that book, the way it is, like, you become a doormat to save your marriage, and that doesn't work, because as a human being, if you try to do that, the resentment, sooner or later, resentment will build, and resentment has a cap. I'm going to show you. I don't have a small bottle here, but the point is, I'm going to use my big water bottle. Resentment, it'll keep building, even if you're very good at not reacting. It has a cap. When it fills up, it'll just blow up. Literally, resentment works like a bomb. That's a new concept. I gotta make a YouTube short about that. So resentment has a cap. Even if you don't react, eventually it's gonna blurt out. So that is why, for marriage, you need two people to wanting to make the marriage work. Two people has to choose that, let's make the marriage work. Only then the marriage is gonna work. So for me, it was when I realized that, okay, it's only me who is trying. It's not that he didn't, maybe, in the past it did, but by then he was done. And I let go. And after that is, I think life felt more slowly settling down. um, and that letting go is not easy, because it's the familiarity of life. The familiar pain in our life feels better than unknown peace. Now, nobody would guarantee you that you will have that peace that you're looking for is in the unknown, but my logic in that simply is that if that peace was there in the familiar, it would already be there. You'd already know, right? You have been together for years and you have tried. And if it did not work, that means whatever is in that unfamiliar, you gotta explore. And if you don't give up, you can even find God. So, you can find peace. So anyway, the final part here is the where I have the YouTube, chapter 8, YouTube, filming my way back to life. So at the time, of course, I was trying different things, and on my book too, of the Reinvention, which will come out later this year around the holidays, where I'll tell you like how this pattern worked for me, like either if it's gratitude, because I did gratitude in the past at work, and mindfulness, I did some practice before, and then same thing with the YouTube. I used to have 2 YouTube channels in the past, 5-6 years ago, for completely different reason. But at the time, of course, I did not think of business or anything, because you guys can see the videos in the early days in 2024. In fact, the entire 2024, 7-8 months when I made the video, it was just journaling. And then people who are going through separation and divorce, they said they're finding help. And I was like, oh my God, these messages, I was kind of throwing it like a message in a bottle, right, in the ocean. And then some people were catching it, and I had no idea. And when people comment, only then I know. A couple of weeks ago, we had a meetup here. This is my startup garage, by the way. People come here for the smaller groups. I do the meetup events here. It's my living room, but I call it startup garage anyway. So I just wanted myself to be accountable to because I was doing this mindfulness and all of that, but I was afraid that without a right community, I'm going to give up that practice. Because as I was attending different meetups and other events, I figured that some places you go to, you are welcomed in a way that you feel good, and there were places where I felt deeply judged, and then I was like, I don't know. So I, of course, had the hope to create this meetup group that I have now, Midlife Reinvention Community on Meetup. But at the time when I needed it in 2024, there was not a group like that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just create these YouTube videos so that I'm accountable. And every single day after, in the morning coffee, like, right when I was drinking my morning coffee, right now it's afternoon, I'm making this video, and I'm actually drinking some tea. Anyway, and it's a perfect cup. You can read the write-up, grow through what you go through. That's what happened in my case. But anyway, I was holding myself accountable, and then when I saw that people are getting real help, and then early January of 2025, so a little over a year ago, only then I was like, okay, let me put some structure towards it so it really helps people. And then I cannot be like, I'm beyond grateful. I can't tell you guys, I am beyond grateful, like really pain to purpose when I see the looks on the faces of the people who come in person, because I know even on YouTube you guys have that, but I can't see, unfortunately. But when people show up in meetup, and then people, when they say they don't feel as alone, oh my God, I mean, I couldn't have asked for more. I couldn't have asked for more, because this is like such a full circle for me, because my pain, pain to purpose, it feels like my pain had a meaning. So if you are going through this journey, just keep going. Know that the pain that you're going through, there is a meaning. You just have to keep looking for it. You will find the purpose, my friends. You'll find the purpose. So keep going, and come back for the last one. The last episode, I'm going to talk to you about that, how I noticed that there was something bigger than me and the community. I'll go deep into the community aspect of it, and how something greater, for me it's God, for you it could be universe, higher power, how that is what will get you going in the hardest days. Okay, so come back, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Take care. Bye.